work on. Okay, that's good. The recording is on. You might have seen my blogs and other things where I actively participate in the community and give back. Along with me today is John Thomas. John, can you do a quick intro about yourself?
Sure, Prash. Thanks. So my name is John Thomas. I'm a product manager for Informatica. I've actually been in this space for about 15 years now. I initially got my feet wet with MDM when I worked at a major telco where we implemented 3 different customer information files over 2 years, which never really solved the overall problem before we implemented our first MDM solution. So taking that experience, I joined one of the major MDM vendors within their R&D team, did a number of roles, mostly around working with customers to understand their business problems, creating strategy and roadmap plans for how MDM will help to solve those issues, and creating a realistic delivery and implementation plan, and helping the enterprise set up to handle the changes and evangelize the concepts and opportunities within various organizations that MDM always brings. So I've since come over to Informatica as a product manager, bringing with me my field experience, knowledge about the problems that companies face and why they're using MDM, and the problems that also came with implementing MDM. So it's been a great experience coming to Informatica. We're really trying to target issues around implementing and maintaining MDM through lowering total cost of ownership, making it simpler to implement, configure, maintain. And coming from a professional services background, this is really key to me, and it kind of, that's really what I want to hear and solve the problems for the customer. Thanks, Bosh.
That's great. That's great, John. Thank you. And then John and I have been working in this space for a long time, and we have worked as colleagues in many other, one of the other company as well. So yeah, thanks, John, for that quick intro. I think it's really critical that experience comes into life and helps customers, look for the features they're looking for. So a few logistics before we start today. Today's webinar is scheduled for an hour. And that means we will have about 45 to 50 minutes of presentation and demo time. I'm super excited about demo, which John is going to do and show some of the great capabilities we are doing. We won't be able to cover everything, but some of the key highlights you want to watch will definitely be the focus here. We will have a question and answer session as well at the end. We'll try to keep it very lively, and one of the way which works out great for us, because there are many folks on the line, we didn't want to have the noise in the background come in and distract the flow. So we have muted your lines, but you will be using the chat option, which you see on the top right corner of your screen, to go and ask that question which you have. And keep it simple and keep it crisp, and that helps us get to that quickly. And we will also be recording this call. So the recording is turned on. That means you will get a recording of this webinar in case your colleagues or somebody misses it, so they can listen to this as well. And also, we are doing a post-webinar survey, which is a great thing Patavi's team does. Patavi's from our customer support, and that helps us take the feedback from you, so we can make even more better when next time we come and deliver this session for you. So with that, let's quickly start on to a few slides which I wanted to talk about and kind of show your vision and roadmap. And then we'll hand it over to John Thomas, who will do most of the work in terms of the features, functionalities we are doing in 10.2, as well as the demo part of it. So I want to take a few minutes to talk about our key focus areas for Informatica MDM. And these are the results of customers like you providing your valuable feedback when we meet at customer advisory boards, which are a great way, by the way, for you to get in and provide us the feedback, and other events where we meet our customers. Our customers are the one who's shaping our products. I wanted to touch on a few things here. The hybrid deployment. We are really focused on providing our customers the complete MDM capabilities, no matter where they deploy their solution, whether it's on-prem or on the cloud. So that's been the key focus for us. And MDM has definitely grown from a very IT-centric a solution, a very stewardship-centric solution, to becoming a very business user-focused tool, right? So we are seeing a lot of demand for better-looking interfaces, a demand for self-service, a demand for, putting this interface in front of the business users. So that's been a very key focus for us as well. So we are working on and delivering those kind of key features as well. And when it comes to scale and scalability and growing up to the new demands of big data world, a lot of customers we are meeting today are going from the traditional conventional way of implementing MDM, where a few millions of records is all they used to manage, to adding new kind of data to that solution, adding more, getting more richer insights about customers, and also leveraging some of the big data sources where these kind of insights exist today, whether it's social media, interaction data, transaction data, or even IoT data. There are great use cases coming out, and we are aligning ourselves to that kind of demand as well. And finally, the business agility. It all comes down to delivering solution faster to the business, so IT can keep up with that business demand. So that's been a key focus as well. John, next slide. Okay, many of you know the power of our solution today, right? The MDM is not just about match and merge functionality anymore, but it is much more than that. But definitely match and merge is a key important aspect of MDM. We have been focusing on providing the complete capabilities for our customers. If you see from left to right here, MDM is about acquiring the data, where it resides, wherever it resides, on the cloud, on-prem, or on third-party sources, getting all the data, discovering different patterns that exist in that data, the profiling aspect of it, finding out what kind of variations of name exist in that, so you can do a better decision on how to model the best view, enterprise view of that customer or supplier or product data you're going to manage, right? So providing all that flexibility is where the power of Informatica comes out. And then also it's about managing the metadata and reference data, right? So you will be able to manage all those information in the same solution, and also at the same time focusing on data quality, the cleansing part of it, the enrichment aspects of it. Informatica DAS works with MDM now, and you will hear some of it from John's presentation today. We are bringing those kind of capabilities together so you can get the data quality right, validate it, and also enrich it. And finally, making sure that data, after you remove the duplication, you match and merge and use the best technology which is available on the planet today to do all of this, and then deliver that data securely to both operational and analytical requirements, right? And on top of it, all of it is the governance aspect of it, which is really, really critical for MDM implementation, so we are focused on that. So as you can see in the bottom part of the slide, a few things which will stand out there, right? The multi-domain nature of it, the ability to manage any type of data, and also the relationship that exists between the data. We're also focused now on multi-database. What I mean by that is not only supporting the traditional relational database management kind of systems, but also the new technologies, some of the graph capabilities. Graph is good at certain things. It's not good for all the things, but some of the good features Graph provides, we want to leverage that as well and provide those capabilities to our customers. And then finally, as Gartner calls it, the multi-vector nature of the implementation, right? Whether you want to support on real-time analytical use cases, as well as moving from one type of implementation pattern or style to the other pattern style, right? So like, for example, some customers want to move from registry implementation style to consolidation and things like that. So we are, providing all those capabilities within a single solution. And finally, I want to touch on maybe one or two slides more, and I will hand it over to John. You may be hearing in the market about the need for next generation MDM, right? And Informatica has done an excellent job in kind of adapting to that new age. At the same time, also supporting some of the traditional, the conventional way of managing master data, right? So it's a great example of this. And in our definition, the next generation MDM aligns to a few things, right? What you see here on the screen. One is being able to provide that intuitive user experience, right? Whether it is the new kind of users we are seeing, the business users who are thrilled about having a great looking interface, which will provide them the maps and the graphs and things like that, which is very intuitive to them. So we are addressing those business users requirements here. We are addressing the traditional data stewardship users, because they're not going to go away. They are the ones who are going to make sure the data is clean, it is out of duplication. If the manual intervention is needed, they are the ones who get in there and fix the data. So we are providing them task and role-driven approach to make them more efficient, right? And at the same time, making developers efficient, right? Many of you maybe are developers in this call today, providing you ability to move from a hand coding or a lot of coding work to more of a configuration-driven approach, right? So that's some of those enhancements you will hear from John as well today. We are focused on that. And then finally, it all comes down to the business running smoothly. So some of you, and we are addressing that challenge as well. So as you can see, there's the fast time to value for business as well, and we are doing it in a few ways. One, we are making it easy for you to configure the tool, get the implementation done faster, and also provide you, John, if you can go to the next screen, provide you ability to deploy our solution, whether on-prem you want or on the cloud or a mix of that, right? We call it hybrid solution. So different flexible deployment options, still be able to deliver or get all those end-to-end capabilities I talked about in the earlier slide is where our focus is. And with that, I think I want to hand over to John to show you some of the 10.2 enhancements we have done, which aligns to some of the things I talked about, and also show you the demo, and then we'll get into the question and answers. John?
Okay, great. Okay, thanks, Prash. So when we start talking about 10.2, we really want to talk about what our key priorities are. And we've kind of bucketed them into these major four categories. So first is we've been focused on improving our ability to deliver an intuitive user experience. NED 360, our new UI framework, is designed to make it easier for customers to build both data steward and business user specific screens. So the role-based configurations, pre-built widgets, make it easy to show different aspects of master data, such as demographic information, maps, charts, and more. So when you see the 10.2 demo, you'll see our focus is on making it easier to not only use and understand the data view and NED 360, but also for configuring and maintaining MDM. Second, data enrichment is an important aspect of master data management implementations. For example, companies implementing a B2B use case want not only to integrate internal master data from Salesforce and ERP and other systems, they also want the ability to make sure that data is accurate. Where can you get better insights about B2B profiles other than Dun Bradstreet? So in version 10.2, we built a connector that allows you to connect to any source through our Informatica DaaS platform to ensure customers can create accurate and trustworthy profiles in MDM. So as mentioned before, Informatica is committed to reducing the total cost of ownership for customers. In this front, we're helping our customers reduce the IT management cost of their MDM solution, and at the same time gain some of the benefits they get from a cloud-based MDM solution. And not only are we looking at how do we make it easier to implement and maintain, but Informatica now provides managed services for MDM, so offers low cost of ownership. And with this offering, we ensure customers don't compromise on features and functionalities of an end-to-end MDM solution. And last but not least, we now offer a configuration-driven approach to user interface. So there are several improvements, including the ability to connect to enrichment services like D&B without doing heavy and time-consuming coding. You'll see a demo on this later on, but I will touch on some of the simplified configuration later in this session. So just going into each of these categories in a little bit more detail. NED 360 is a fully functional platform that's allowing customers to build rich user interfaces. So if you're on 10.1, and you might have already started using business entities and NED 360 framework, but our focus with NED 360 is that the requirements of a business user is different from a regular day-to-day user like a data steward, who's focused on ensuring quality of the data. While NED 360 framework, you can now cater to the needs of both the data steward user and the business user. So depending on the data you want to show to these users, Informatica allows you to create appropriate services to ensure that data surfaces on a clean-looking, intuitive UI. Business users who often look for efficient or jazzy way to look at their data, including maps and social feeds, will immediately see that difference. And for steward type of roles, there are views to see which customer record came from which system, the history of the changes that occurred for a given customer, the side-by-side comparison of records to ensure that they make the best judgment. So all of the views that we had before to make sense of that data is now available, but in a more intuitive user experience. And one key takeaway from this presentation is that we're constantly looking at how we can improve our UI. We have hired external companies to gather feedback on the UI, look at how users are interacting with MDM in their day-to-day tasks, and then see what needs to be improved. We're always open to getting more feedback from our customers, from our system integrators. If you have ideas, suggestions, criticisms, please do feel free to reach out to me or to Prosh, and we can definitely take that into consideration when we're looking at improving our UI. So with Informatica 10.2, we're providing a simple configuration process and pre-built widgets that lets you search any DaaS provider like D&B directly from Informatica Data Director. So this integration is simplified, and with few configurations and adding the right widgets, you can search a business profile from MDM, find a match in a rich D&B database, for example, and import that data and store it in Informatica MDM. So the benefit for you, sorry, I think we're having a little bit of a technical issue. Proch, I think, is controlling my. Okay, sorry about that.
Okay, good. Are you good, John?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
The benefit for you is that this takes away a lot of the manual coding work that was required before to enable and enrich business profiles from D&B or Axiom or any other external sources of data. And your users get real-time access to external DaaS directly from within IDD for your existing IDD processes. So with Informatica Cloud Edition that we launched during Informatica World, we continue to focus on bringing total cost of ownership lower for our customers. So this offering provides managed services for you and delivers full capabilities of MDM, including the master data fueled applications on top of Amazon Web Services. So again, if you're interested in learning more about this offering, please reach out to Prosh or I after this call, and we can provide you more details. Finally, let's look at how Informatica delivers faster time to value. So the team has worked hard in delivering a configuration-driven approach, and you'll see this in the upcoming demo. The idea is simple. Allow users to do more configuration rather than going through a long, tedious, and error-prone development approach. So if you used pre-version 10.2 MDM, you've seen the previous incarnation of the provisioning tool, and it surfaced a lot of functionality to a nice web UI, but it still required a developer to be able to do anything with it, and required quite a bit of XML coding, which means you really have to know and understand MDM before you can configure it. So with 10.2, we almost fully removed all the XML elements to make it simpler to configure and eliminate the chance of any errors. And we also introduced the layout editor, which is going to help you create different layouts for different users and roles, taking advantage of the E360 interface. But before we start looking at the demo, let's just have a quick look about how we got here. In 10.0, we had our first version of NAD 360, which supported Smart Search, had ActiveOS embedded, and the starting point of Business Entity and Business Entity Services. So if you're on 10.1, you know about our full editing capabilities for business entities. We brought in a new start page and workflows at the business entity level, and the new task manager page. And this also was our first take at the provisioning configuration tool. So as we look at what we've done in the past and what we're doing in 10.2, you can really see that our strategy for MDM is focused on a couple of key goals. One, make it easy. Let business users start owning certain aspects of configuration of MDM. Give business users and business analysts the capability of creating and maintaining business entity views, and give them the ability to create their own layouts and have different layouts for different roles. And two, provide a rich user interface that allows users to perform their tasks efficiently and to broaden the reach of IDD from data stewards to business users by providing more capabilities like creating widgets that can bring in information from external sources within the company, like their CRM, and also from the Internet of Things like social media feeds or external data providers. 10.2 is a major step forward in achieving both these goals. A major change in 10.2 is the decoupling of subject areas and business entities. So we still have backwards compatibility, so customers using subject areas only or a combination of subject areas and business entities can continue to work as they are today without any issues. However, a brand new customer can now create only business entities and use IDD without having to know or configure subject areas at all. This is definitely going to make it easier to configure MDM and simpler to implement it if the customer is looking at basing their implementation on business entities. We enhance the UI look to be more consistent with the rest of the Informatica products, while at the same time bringing our application to have a more current look and feel that you're expecting from your applications. So, and lastly, for a quick sneak peek into what we're going to be working on next, we're looking at new ways for users to interact with IDD, from not having search as the only way to interact with Data Director. We're providing more capabilities like browsing catalogs, traversing hierarchies. We're introducing support for structured hierarchies and more visualizations, and the ability to traverse relationships. We're planning on integrating with Rev to enable business users to directly manage and ingest and extract data from MDM, and enable capabilities around workflow-driven screen flows, which will enable customers to create a flow to meet usability, regulatory, and standards requirements. But one of the key aspects of why we're moving to 10.2 is to understand the reason why we're doing some of this. So in pre-version 10 MDM, we had the concepts of Services Integration Framework, the SIF, which allowed you to interact with the underlying base objects at a very granular level. One issue customers have always had with the SIF is that when you're trying to integrate with external systems, developers really need to know the underlying MDM model. To be able to, for example, create a customer, they have to know whether the customer name is a one-to-many or a customer can have only one name. They have to know whether a customer can have one or many Facebook handles, etc. They then have to build a composite service that calls multiple SIF calls to actually put or create the customer and orchestrate the entire transaction outside of the MDM SIF framework. Within IDD, we have the concept of the subject areas where you can relate the different base objects together to create an entity. However, the subject areas were only used within IDD. So even though you created subject areas to integrate these base objects together, and even though you had workflow integrated at the subject area level, you could not take advantage of this with your external applications or systems. And this had two big drawbacks. We talked about when you wanted to integrate any system to MDM, you had to do the orchestration of multiple SIF calls yourself, and your development team had to understand the underlying schema and work with that concept rather than the overall business object. And two, any governance processes you had set up would have to be duplicated, or in most cases not set up at all, if you're coming in from external systems. So from version 10 onwards, we have started moving from the concept of subject areas to business entities, which also used to be called composite data objects or composite objects. So this is a significant shift in our core underlying architecture, and it's really important to understand. Business entities allows us to operate in a coarse-grained object and services layer, which enables interactions with business objects rather than the underlying data schema. So once you define the business entity, you can then automatically generate EJB, SOAP, and REST-based services for those business entities, and all the interaction and integration will now be done through those services. Business entity services simplifies integration, so the developer does not need to know or understand the underlying internal relational data model. All the developers need to know is the business entity they're working on and use a simple REST-based API, which is self-describing, much simpler, and more intuitive to use, and that business entity layer encapsulates all this information and orchestration. So, and in addition, any workflow processes you set up are now at the business entity level and triggered through business entity services. So this means that regardless of which application is calling MDM, all applications have to follow one consistent governance process. The business entity is where our focus and investment is on now, and it provides us the opportunity to provide even more features and functionality in the future. This mechanism has also allowed us to introduce the concept of business entity views from version 10 onward, which I'm not going to get into too much detail here, but the fundamental concept is that it allows different views on the business entity. So these views can be created to meet different requirements, to more closely match an external application or process, to simplify the integration process while using the underlying business entity schema within MDM, which might be modeled on the needs of the enterprise. So this enables a CRM to write to MDM using a schema they're familiar with, while your campaign system can read that data from MDM using a schema that makes sense to them. And this is all handled behind the scenes within MDM, so there's no more orchestration required. So let's now get into what we developed in 10.2 specifically and show you the demo of what we developed. So one of the major enhancements we did in 10.2 is the updates to the provisioning tool. Again, in our efforts to make it easy and simplify the implementation and configuration of MDM, we had two major initiatives here. One was XML minimalization. So as I show you the tool, you'll see that there's almost no XML required anymore for configuring MDM. There's actually only one area which requires XML, and this is for one widget where it's required. Other than that, all other areas have been converted to combo boxes, pick lists, and data fields, which is going to help alleviate issues with spelling, incorrect XML, but will also help users in understanding all the options available to them. The other major enhancement, and one that we think will provide a lot of value and flexibility, is the Layout Designer. The Layout Designer is specifically designed to allow a role like a business analyst to create role-specific data view layouts. And I'll walk you through the flow and kind of show you how simple it is for anyone to do this. Okay. So just logging into our provisioning tool. So as you can see, we already made a number of changes to the provisioning tool. Some of the key ones are around the business entity and UI configuration menu options. So we've kind of consolidated or refactored all of these choices to make it simpler for you from a configuration perspective. So within the business entity, if I just show you an example for transformations. So here we're doing a transformation between person-to-person view. Before, this was all done in XML, and now this is all done through pick lists and combo boxes. So within this person-to-person view transformation, so this is an example of a transformation we've created. So if you look at the input fields, they're all pick lists. So instead of having to kind of do this all in XML, you can do this all within pick lists. And you also have combo boxes where it makes sense. So you can kind of understand what the options are here. So another major change as well is to tasks. For example, a task template for default approval. We have, for priorities, you can set the priorities in the combo box, and you have the statuses. So where possible, we try to make everything easier to implement and easier to configure. Another good example as well is a trigger. So I'm looking at a trigger for default approval. I can kind of say, okay, this is what I'm looking at here. So when I'm doing a create business entity or an update business entity for a super user role, I can configure that for specific business entities and so forth. So it just gives you a lot of flexibility on how everything is set up and how it should work. The other major enhancement we did is the Layout Designer. So Layout Designer is really geared towards a business analyst type business user who kind of understands the needs of the business and can define a layout for different roles for their line of business. So in this case, I'm going to create an entity view. I'm going to provide some information. So let's say I'm doing a layout for my business exec. I provide some details. I have some options here. I specify the list order. So if I specify a high list order, that's the one that will be defaulted when I pull up a record. This will be a default layout. So here I can choose whether I want it for a person or one of the views I have on top of person. So in this case, I'm just going to choose person. Here I can define the purpose. So, so part of that is defining the user role. So who has access to see it? So in this case, this is really for my CEO and my senior manager. This is not for the data stewards or managers. And this is for editing entities. So I know my business executive is not really going to be creating any entities. They're just going to be searching for and maybe editing. So I choose editing here. From here, I have a number of templates I can select from. So these come out of the box. So for my business executive, I'm going to choose a template that I can probably do a little bit of configuration on, but also not confuse them with too much information. So now I can actually have this canvas here where I can drag and drop widgets onto the canvas and show that information. So in this case, I'm going to drag in the business entity. So here, this is where I can define what elements of the business entity I want to show. So in this case, I want to keep things simple. I really just want to show the first name and the last name and maybe the birth date. And so I only need 2 columns. So I'm actually just going to say I just need 2 columns here. I do a quick configuration name, and I can say, you know what, he doesn't really care about the details, but he just needs to see the address. So within the address, I can actually specify as well specifically which fields he wants to see and so forth. So you can see the amount of configuration here. It's really just a drag and drop and selection. As soon as I press done here and then I publish my changes, this will automatically be available to my users. So it's a very simple process of creating multiple layouts for different users. We still have the external links. If you're familiar with version 10.1, you might have already created additional external links to maybe links to your CRM system, links to your, to Facebook or Twitter. So you can actually have those resources here and just drag and drop those here as well. So, and that's really all it is to being able to configure a layout to meet your requirements. All right, going on to. So next, along with our initiative of making it easy and eliminating the need to configure subject areas before we can model business entities, we have to update all our technical screens, like our data lineage page, history, and match comparison, to start using our business entities and business entity services. So these new screens are able to present the complex information, so really that any user can understand how the business entity was created and modified. Here I'm going to be logging on. So I've logged on to our application. I'm going to be searching for Informatica. And I see Informatica Corp. So as you can see, this is our new E360 page. It's quite similar to what we had in pre-10.2, but we've done a lot of cleanup. We've made things a little bit more condensed, changed the font to improve readability, and really just try to make the information pop a little bit from the screen. So you can see we have a couple of external links, like this Google Map example. We have our browser to the website that they set up. We also have a number of the widgets that were available beforehand as well. So if I go to the match records, so this is the same screen for our legacy customers as our merge comparison screen we had before, but it provides a lot more functionality than we had. So in the previous releases, we only used to be able to see the root, and basically we would just merge everything at the child level. Now we can actually merge at the child level as well as the root. So in this case, I have I haven't selected any candidates yet to match. And, so this person, this Informatica Corp, has multiple phone numbers and addresses. So I could actually go and just merge phone numbers together so what I'm doing here is I'm actually merging within the business entity itself. I'm not actually merging different entities together. Or I can actually just go ahead and select other entities to merge as well. And then I can actually merge across entities as well. So when I look at the phone numbers, I'll get phone numbers from both the parties that I've selected to merge, and I can then merge them together, and same for the address. So this is a lot more functionality than we had before at the subject area level, to be able to traverse the whole hierarchy of the business entity, select which child nodes you want to merge, and merge those together. Now I'm going to go to the cross-reference. So the cross-reference page really is meant to give you information about which sources contributed to create this record. So similar to the functionality we had before, we're able to select, so this shows you which were the contributing records and what actually won. You can see some of the trust scores. Right. And you can also override any values that you want to override as well. So in this case, if I want to say that this is the name I want to use, I can just click it here and that changes the name, or I can double click on the actual field and actually type in however I want to override it as well. So it's really up to you on how you want to use that cross-reference screen. And the last screen that we've updated is our history screen. So the history screen gives you a history of all the changes that have happened to this record. So in this case, you can kind of see all the changes. You're able to as well to look at specific, within a specific node as well, or you can look at the history overall. And so here you can kind of see the events. You can kind of say, okay, what is the before and after for this record? So the before and after, and so you can get all the changes that have happened for this record. Okay. And one last thing as well is within our data view page, we also introduced a new widget called the Related Records widget. So this Related Records widget was actually existed in previous versions of MDM from version 10, but it was read-only. So you could see the related records, but you couldn't make any changes to them. Now you can actually you can actually search for new records, create a relationship, and make the changes to the relationships directly within the screen as well. So just giving a lot more functionality from here without having to go to HM if you didn't need to, if you wanted to make it simpler. Okay. So another key initiative we have for 10.2 is the ability to enrich business entities through integration with external data providers like Dun Bradstreet or Informatica DAS services. So we're providing a simple mechanism that can be configured by a line of business user with the ability to search and retrieve the full company profile directly from the data director. So from the provisioning tool, you do the configuration to download the WSDL from your external data provider, configure the mapping to the business entity, and configure the DAS widget to be able to do this. Let me just show you a quick demo of how it works on the DAS director itself. In this case, I'm going to go and create an organization. In this case, I actually just type in who I'm going to be creating. So type in Informatica, and then this option becomes enabled. So right now we have this set up for Informatica DAS, which is our internal Informatica DAS provider. But you can also have directly go to Dun Bradstreet, Axiom, or any other data provider that provides these types of services. So you can configure whatever request, however the request is, you can configure the appropriate variables to send. And in this case, we only configured it for organization name. But if you wanted to include things like the country code or perhaps some other parameters, you can also pass that as well, either by default or by providing an option for the user to enter it within this screen. When you click go, it actually goes to the data provider, does a search, and retrieves likely candidates. So in this case, we have many Informatica return candidates, so I'm just going to select and compare them together to get a little bit more information about my results. So again, this is what's being provided to us from our Dun Bradstreet service. And then I can say, this is the one I want to use, and just click use this. And that will actually persist that record within Informatica Data Director itself. And now, if I go to the XREF, I will see Dun Bradstreet as the contributor source, and that record will exist in my MDM. So in 10.2, we made a couple of changes to the PAM that should help customers when implementing MDM. So with WebLogic and JBoss, we now support Java 8. WebSphere support for Java 8 was not available until our dev cycle. We had to push that probably until our next hotfix release. But in addition, to help business lower the total cost of ownership, we've added Amazon RDS support for Oracle, and we also have support for Windows 10 now, just to ensure our customers can integrate as well with the latest Informatica products. We now support the latest 10.1 version of the platform and also 10.1 for IDQ. We've done a lot of work to improve the security of our user passwords in 10.2, and we've enhanced our customer password management functionality through IDD. And we also enabled HTTPS support for the Hub Console, so no more workaround is required for this. We still support HTTP, HTTPS now, and EJB by default. And that's not all we have done in 10.2. We've included a number of more enhancements to improve functionality, to make it easy for our customers to implement a customized MDM. Live Data Map is one of the core underlying metadata repositories for the enterprise. In 10.2, we're providing a tool to enable users to import MDM metadata into Live Data Map or LDM, so you can share that metadata across the enterprise and with other Informatica projects. Another new capability, which we're sure will make users very happy, is that we now have support or functionality to replace user exits, IDD user exits. So we have the capability now to customize our services by calling out to external web services from within predefined breakpoints, such as before or after everything, before or after validation, and before or after write. So this allows you to be able to write custom validation services, perform other service calls from within a service, but which gives you a high degree of functionality and customizability that was probably lacking if you're familiar with our user exit mechanism. And lastly, to help customers make use of all this new functionality, we made a number of changes to our documentation. We rewritten the provisioning tool guide, added a separate legacy IDD user guide so that we can focus on the new IDD using business entity functionality. And of course, we updated and refactored our installation guides to make it simpler to read and follow for our customers and implementers. So if you're an existing customer, you're probably wondering now whether you should upgrade to 10.2 or to an earlier release. We definitely recommend that you upgrade to 10.2. 10.2 has all the hotfixes up to 9.7.1 hotfix 7 and 10.1 hotfix 2. So definitely 10.2 is the most stable version of Informatica MDM we have right now. The upgrade from 10.1 hotfix 2 to 10.2 is relatively straightforward, and there really isn't any reason not to upgrade directly to 10.2 when you're upgrading. Upgrading from 9.01 and 9.1 to 10.2 is, of course, a major change. We do have many resources to help with this. We've helped many customers through the upgrade process. GCS and IPS are available to help you with upgrade readiness checks. They have bundles and options that can help you plan, mitigate risk, and perform the upgrade. From 9.7 onwards, the process of upgrading is a little bit more straightforward. You can move from 9.7 to 10.2 without any major rewrites. All version 10 releases support subject areas and the old workflows. So you should be able to upgrade to 10.2 in a straightforward manner. The major step that's required when upgrading to 10.2 is to generate business entities. So regardless of whether you're using them or not, in 10.2 you do have to generate business entities. This is a requirement for workflow, and this is something that you should be able to test early on in your planning. But other than that, you should be able to use your subject area setup and IDD as you do today. Okay. So we will provide this deck to you. We have a couple of useful links here that you can go through to help plan for your upgrade, everything from release notes to upgrade planners and so forth. Or you can reach out to GCS to get access to these as well. And so, Prash, did you want to close up? Well, either way, you can always get in. Sorry, go ahead, Prash.
No. We definitely have a few questions. I think we'll answer those. If I can take one at a time, I think I saw a question on LDAP. Let's maybe address that one. And also, I think there's one more question I see. I encourage you to ask any other questions you have. In the meantime, we'll at least get these questions answered. John, if you can answer this, do we have any direct LDAP integration for real-time user role access management? 10.1 needs a lot of custom work is what the question asks.
Yeah, so we do have direct native support for LDAP-enabled directory servers, Microsoft Active Directory and Kerberos. So if you want to use your own third-party security providers in addition to Informatica, MDM Hub default security providers, you just have to explicitly register using the SAM security provider tool. Got
it. And I do have a question on DNB DAS data. Do we need to purchase a license, or does it come along with 10.2? So the answer is the DNB data has to be licensed, but you can license it through our Informatica account reps. So whoever you're working with in your account, just work with them. They'll help you get that done, and we can follow up definitely more on that question. But Abhi, is there any other questions you see on the window which we want to answer?
Yeah, Prash, I think I have a couple of more coming in here. So the first one, I believe, it's a two-part question that's come in. So the user is asking, I'm on MDM 9.1, and I have a lot of user exits on IDD. So do I need to rewrite? That's the first part of it. And the second part is, do I have to get a new custom population for matching?
Sure. So if you were on a existing version of MDM and you're using subject areas and IDD, and you've done a significant amount of customizations and configuration, you probably spent a lot of money on user exits and customizing your IDD application. You don't need to make any. You don't have to go to business entities. You can continue to using subject areas and the IDD as it exists today. So you have the same look and feel, and the same user exits will work as you have it today in the previous versions. So you don't have to get into a major rewrite for upgrading to MDM. The only thing is that as you start looking at business entities, and we don't think you should just switch on business entities one day and kind of move to the next, you should come up with a plan to actually move subject areas or domain specific, and kind of move, have a gradual move over to business entities. So that is when you would have to look at, whether the new functionality there makes things easier for you, whether the functionality that you've done in user exits is actually capable to be done using our transformations from within business entities to business entity views, or through our user exit, our new customized business user exits. So that's kind of a plan that you have to look at. In terms of getting a custom population for matching, no, you don't have to get a new custom population. You should be able to use the one that you have today.
Perfect. Thank you, John. There's another question. Is there any native support for automatic language detection and using it in matching through SIP and Viscose?
All right. Not yet. We do have a script that you could use that we plan to make available in the resource kit. Definitely you can contact UCS for more info right now, but in the future we will include that within the resource kit.
Thanks, John. So there's one more question here. Are business entities a synonym of composite objects? And for Active Directory, can we associate a role with Active Directory group?
So business entities, composite objects are what we initially called business entities. Obviously it's more of a technical term, so we wanted to make it more business user friendly. So we started calling them business entities, which I think is a more appropriate terminology for it. And yes, for Active Directory, you can associate a role with an Active Directory group. So our security guide, our Hub Security Guide, should provide more info on this as well.
A few more questions coming in here. I use native MDM workflow today, so do I have to use ActiveOS in 10.2 if I'm not using I think that's business entity yet. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're using a native workflow, for sure you can come into 10.2 using subject areas and continue to use that. Again, you don't upgrading to 10.2 does not mean you have to rewrite any of the configuration customization work that you've done. ActiveOS provides a lot more functionality than our native workflows does, and it has better integrated support for business entities as a whole. So like the new screen that I showed you today with match comparison and cross-reference, because they're at the full business entity level, that requires support from ActiveOS business entity workflows. But as long as you don't want to use that new functionality, you can continue to use the same workflow engine you're using today.
Perfect. Thank you. One more question coming in here. What's the difference between Customers 360 and MDM?
Yeah, and that's actually a really good question because I think that has caused some confusion. So MDM is the platform that Customer 360 is built on. Customer 360 solves a very specific need to be able to looking at customers and how to onboard customers, whereas MDM is really the platform behind it, which can solve multiple domains and have multiple use cases that it is targeted at. So Customer 360 uses all of the same functionality that any of our MDM implementations will use. They'll have the same access to the same underlying cross-reference screens, match screens, and all the functionality associated to it. but it's to solve a very specific case, very specific use case.
Perfect.
One of the other way to look at the customer 360 and any other master data fueled applications we call them, it could be Supplier 360 or the product 360, is to think of them as, the accelerators we have been providing to the market as the next level of that accelerators, right? So they come with pre-built UI, they come with the pre-built data quality tools, so to solve that specific problem as John was talking about, right? So you don't have to do a lot of that work because we have built that app for you, which includes already those data quality tools and UI configurations you need to do anyway, right? But it's a specific problem it will solve, right? In customer 360 case, you basically, as the name says, it is used for customer data management, right? So if you have a use case around managing customer data better, it can give you a good boost in terms of implementation, so you don't have to do that work again.
Thank you, Prash. I think we have time for a few more questions. So there's one more coming in here, which says, is there a plan to completely deprecate native Cyprian workflow code?
So the idea for native workflow is, and actually we have sent out a deprecation notice for native Supplier workflow a while ago. We will continue to support it within our 10.2 application, but we are running into, I guess, the limits of what it can do. Right now it is really at a support level where if there are any bugs, we'll look at it, but we're not looking at investing any further resources into enhancing the native workflow at all.
Another question coming in here, is Informatica planning to provide support as those platforms than JMS to the consuming systems?
So we are adding capabilities for things like Kafka streaming in the future, but I think we would be interested in hearing from more about what they're interested in and kind of like, maybe getting more details on that question. So if you can email me or Prash with more information on your use case, or we can set up a call to discuss this in a little bit more detail.
I believe there's another question about getting access for learning perspective. So how do we get access to cloud-based Informatica MDM solutions for learning perspective?
So we are planning to provide a trial support later next year for our cloud solution. So you definitely, if you can let us, maybe you can send me an email. We can keep track, and when we have that available, we will definitely reach out to you.
All right. Maybe we might have time for just 2 more questions. All right.
Your line has been unmuted.
Hi, I have a question like, if we are going to 10.2.
Hey, Chandra, I would appreciate if you could post the question on the chat, so that even if we miss answering it, we can take it up and update the blog post with all the necessary questions. Thank you. So there's one more question that's coming through chat. I have, okay. Have there been any changes to HM?
So HM, in 10.2, there's been no changes to HM, but Hierarchy Manager is definitely high on our list of things to look at and modify for the future. So it's one of our critical activities that we're looking at. We actually have a number of things we're working on right now to replace Hierarchy Manager with support for structured hierarchies, support for more of a network mapping type infrastructure to be able to provide better functionality, better performance on top of hierarchies in the future. So it's definitely one of our key goals, and we will definitely have something in the near future for how we're going to look at hierarchies in the future.
There's another question. I think this will be the last one. After creating a business entity, do we need to restart MDM?
No. So if you're just creating a business entity and you want to be able to view it in IDD and run the services, you don't need to restart MDM. you should be able to just create the business entity and then go to IDD, for example, and actually pull it up.
I think another question was, are there any architectural changes? Sorry, John, I think this will be the last question. So are there any architectural changes coming in from 10.1 to 10.2?
No, really from 10.1 to 10.2, where the majority of it is just enhancing existing functionality. We want to make it simpler to use, make it easier to configure. That's been our big kind of what we've been working on. We've added new functionality like the DAS provider and the custom sets for business business entity customization, business entity services customizations. But none of that was a change in architecture. It was just enabling functionality within our current architecture. So the upgrade process for 10.1 to 10.2 is pretty straightforward.
Perfect. I think we're almost on the top of the hour. I think it was a very educative and informative session. Thanks, John and Prash. So I know we could not answer all the questions, but we did manage to answer most of it. So we will be sending out an email at the end of the session with a recording as well as a survey, and you'll also have a link to the blog where we will try to take up any unanswered questions and respond back to it. So thanks everyone for your time. Thank you, John, and thanks, Prash.